Good morning, everyone. In this session, let's learn how to design a very simple user interface, graphic user interface using Tkinter. So it is one of the powerful module which is available in Python. So I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. So you could use any tool, IDE, any IDE. So one of the most simplest IDE is idle, IDLE. And one of the sophisticated IDE is Visual Studio Code, and it's world famous right now. So when you download and install Visual Studio Code, all that you have to do is just click on Open Folder and go to Documents. So you can create a new folder, My Code, My Coding World. So it's already taken, My Coding World 2022. Okay, so My Coding World 2022. So just click on Open, that's enough. So what happens is that particular folder gets created. So whether it is in Mac or Windows, the process is the same. My coding world refers to the folder that I have it here. Right. So let's documents. So I just created my coding world. So that folder is visible over here. Okay. So this is my coding world 2022. And there's nothing over here. So as and when I create the folder, so let's say I'm going to create it as session number 1. So automatically the folder is created. Inside session number 1, I'm just going to create program01.py. So immediately that particular program will appear over here. So let me just see whether Python is installed. Just print hello. So there's a button over here. Just click on this button. So it automatically will start executing and will show the output in the terminal window. So I can see hello being printed in the terminal window. So now let's get started off with the Tkinter. So Tkinter is nothing. So it's pronounced as Tkinter, but it's not. The spelling is different. It's basically TK interface. So it's an interface to a predefined module called as TK and TCL. So these are, it's basically Tkinter is a wrapper functions for TCL and TK. So what does this provide? This helps us to create widgets like text box, a button. So on a click of a button, something should happen. So all that is provided by this Tkinter. So now what you could do is you could use Tkinter as it is, or you can just rename it to TK. So which way we can use short form. So TK dot capital TK is the constructor. So the moment you call the constructor using this TK, you will create an window. So basically, I'm going to call that as the root window. Now this root window will, the moment I run the program, this root window should be visible. There is one function that you're supposed to call, that is main loop. So main loop says that, okay, keep repeating this task so that the user will be able to see the output. Now this is your output. So this is your window. So just one single line of code, TK, which is nothing but the Tkinter, TK. So you will be able to create the window. Now this root window, if you want to set the size. So right now the size is a standard size. So you can, let's say that I want 600 by 400. So it should be in single quotes, guys. Right, so 600 pixels width and 400 pixels height. You could also set it in such a way that it can be started in the center But for now, let's just focus on creating a simple window. And what can we do on the window? So any kind of user interface objects can be built. So what I will do is one small so root window dot title. So if you notice TK here, so I don't want it to be TK, I want it to be type, I want it to be, let's say, a simple calculator. So this is not a calculator like how we create, how we have this particular calculator. We could do definitely. So that is what we'll be doing in the further classes. For now, we'll just create a small, simple calculator where it takes two numbers from the user, calculates the sum, and then displays the sum. So that's what we'll be focusing. Of course, we will design this calculator over a period of time. So this root window title, a simple calculator, just observe this one right now. So when I run the code, a simple calculator is displayed as on the title bar. So now what I will do is I have to create a label, right? So there are a couple of widgets that you can do in any user interface, whether it's an Android application or whether it's a web application or whether it's a standalone applications. Right now, what we are doing is a standalone application. Right, so whatever we do, there are certain widgets like a text box where you can input the text and it can pick the text, and there's a label where it just displays the title or displays the heading of the application, or a radio button, checkbox. A button is one very important component. So we generally call it as widget, widget, widget. Okay, or a component also is fine. So now what we will do is we will create a, so we have the root window, we will create a component or a widget. So how do we create? So use TK. So like how we used constructor in order to create the root window. So here we can create another constructor. We can call the label constructor. So in order to create a label, so what is the text that we want to make it appear in this particular label? Before that, we need to say that this particular label, I want it in the window. Which window? Root window. So we need to specify the master. So this is a keyword argument. We're providing the keyword and what is the value of that particular argument. So master is basically the root window. Specify that this particular label that I'm creating, I want it to be on root window. So master equal to root window. And what is the text that I want to display? So the text I want to display is a simple calculator. So in Python, whether you use single quotes or double quotes, both of them mean it's a string, a simple calculator. Right, so we have two arguments that is passed to the constructor label. And then I'm going to give a name to that particular label, right? So let's say label. So I'm going to start all the labels with, this is the convention that I'm using. Some of them use the convention as LBL. So I'm gonna use this convention. It's always better to follow a convention throughout your project. Label underscore, it's the title or it's the heading, right? So I'm gonna just name it as label heading. Now let me run and see whether I'm able to see this particular label. No, I can't see anything because, so this label heading is created, but it is not yet been displayed. So you need to place it. So you need to place it on this particular window. Now, how do you place? There are three different functions. One is pack, another one is place, another one is grid. So if you want it in the grid arrangement, especially for this particular application that we'll be designing, we should definitely use the grid. So for now, what I will do is I will just use the most easiest one called as pack. So what does pack do? It just packs it in the vertical order. So label heading just comes in the center top, right? So now let me run and see whether label heading is visible. Yes, label heading, a simple calculator is visible. Now, there's one more convention to write these statements because there are quite a lot of arguments in the label that you can give. For example, you want a color for this, you want a foreground color, you want a background color. All that can be done very simply like this. So this is the syntax, or I would say convention that I'm going to use, coding convention. So now what I do is, this is your first argument, keyword argument. This is the second keyword argument. And the third keyword argument is, let's say I have font, right? So font is a tuple. So you need to provide a tuple. So let's say I have Courier New, right? So this is your font name. And let's say I have 20 pixels and it's bold. So you can specify. So in tuple is a collection of data again. So that particular tuple, we have to pass it as a keyword argument. And the keyword name is font, right? The parameter name is font. So now let's run this and see a simple calculator. You can change this one, the font style, a simple calculator. I hope this is clear. Yes, you can experiment with different sizes. A simple calculator. That's it. Job done. In case you want to give a background for this, you can go to the root window and say that root window, I want the color, right? So I want to configure the background color. So you can just say BG or background color. Let's say I put yellow. So this root window will be in yellow color. I hope this is clear. So now there is a default color for this particular label. So you want to alter the label. So you can provide the background color for this particular thing also, BG or background. Let's say I put a background color as red. So this color combinations is not so great. So I'm just putting it so that you understand it. So if you notice, this fellow is very close to the margin, right? So you need to provide some sort of padding. So some sort of padding. So what you can do is root window. You can just say, okay, so inside the configure itself, you can do the padding. So configure background is yellow. And then let's say I do padding. Pad X equal to 10 pixels and pad Y equal to 10 pixels. So this is in the X direction and this is in the Y direction. You will start seeing in the Y direction, there will be a gap. So there's a gap between the label and the margin. So of course, when you reduce this one, you'll see 10 pixels in the X direction also. Do you notice this one? So that's it, right? So you want to have the, so background color is red. Let's say the text color, I want to make it white. You can alter every possible thing. Or let's say I want to make it yellow, right? So the foreground color. So you need to use foreground and I'm going to make it as yellow. So the foreground is nothing but the text color. It's like this. Now, if you notice the text and the label, the red color border is very close. If you want to provide some sort of padding over there, so you could do that one, pad X in the X direction, 10 pixels. And in the Y direction, I'm going to give another 10 pixels. You're getting the point? So this is all decorations. So let me just say 20 pixels over here. Right, so this is how it is. So you want to change a different color, you want to provide a different color, feel free to do that one. Okay, so okay, so now a simple calculator, you can just remove right, so simple calculator is sufficient. Yes, so now we need, this is how you create a label and how this is how you pack it off, right? So pack basically packs it into the center top. So next item that I create, if I create any other label, it will just be packed below this, right? So there is a concept called as frames. I will teach that in the next session, where you can create a frame for heading, frame for input, frame for output, frame for all the operations, right? So right now I'm not going to cover that one. So the focus is only a simple label, a simple text box. Now we need to take some input from the user, right? So how do we take the input from the user? So we need to, first of all, prompt the user, tell that enter the first number. So we need to have one label. So let's say the label first number equal to tk dot label. So we're going to say that the master is root window. the text is basically, so first number. So basically I'm going to say enter the first number, right? So this is your text. So this particular label first number, I'm just going to pack it after the heading, dot pack after the heading. So now what will happen? Automatically, it will display just below this. So you want to provide some sort of padding, so you can do that part. So the padding between these two widgets, how do we achieve that one? So while packing, you need to provide the padding. So pad y equal to 10 pixels. So there will be a 10 pixels between the two packs. So this fellow and this fellow. Enter the first number. So let's say I just increase the font a little bit, not too much, a little bit. So you can look at this and then do it. So let's say I just keep it as 20 pixels, right? So enter the first number, it is bold. So I'm just gonna make it normal. That's it. Enter the first number. The next widget that I want is a text box, right? So we need to provide the space so that he can create a text box. Now, how do you create a text box? So, so text box is named as entry in Tkinter. So I'm going to name it as entry, entry first number. So this is the convention. So I want to store the first number. I want to name the widget as first number. I'm going to prefix it with entry. So what is this entry? Entry is again a class, another class. See here, there's another class. So we're calling the constructor, and we are saying that this particular entry should be in the root window. So the master is the root window. Is there any text that you want to display in that entry? No, not at all. Nothing else. So entry first number, I want to pack it just after the label first number. So I'm just going to say pack, just run this one. So as soon as enter the first number is displayed, you see a box, right? So because there's padding of y 10 pixels, there's a gap here, 10 pixels. That's it. So you can enter the data. So you want it to be a little bigger, just like this. So all that you have to do is take this one font and just attach it to entry as well. So now let's see. That's it. So enter the first number. So you enter the first number like this. So you take the number and then store it, right? So what you can do is, I'm gonna put this padding in the heading so that there is gap between this particular label and this, there's no gap. So you want to give gap, you could definitely give. So what I'll do is I'll make the background color of these two as yellow so that it gets merged, right? So let's say I make it background color as yellow. And the same thing I will do it for the label first number as well. Yeah, so you see it's merged right now. So enter the first number. I enter the first number. You want to say change the text color? Yeah, you can do that one, foreground color. So you can do all of them. So now I want to take another number, right? So label first number, label second number. So I can just copy paste this one. I'm going to say this is your second number, label second number. So when you're displaying and just displaying it as enter the second number, right? So enter the second number and then same color. And then your entry second number and master entry second number, that is done. Now we need to pack it also, right? So otherwise it won't work. So just like how we pack the first number, we're just packing the second number. Pack. So that's it. So I get to enter the first number, first box, and enter the second number, second box. Right. So after this is very important. We need to provide a button to perform an action and then finally display the result. Okay. So now let's make some space. So I'm going to pack all of them at the end and create all the widgets at the beginning. So that's the convention that I use. So you could also create and immediately pack it. So I'm going to use this technique. So you create a button. So button underscore find sum. Okay. So just I'm going to name it as find sum. So this is your name of the button. And how do you create the button? Just like how we have tk.label, tk.entry, tk.tk. So I'm just going to use tk.button. That's it. Now where this button should be there. So let the root window be master. The master will be the root window. Okay. So then you want to provide any text on that particular button. So if you just write master equal to root, so what happens is, now let's say this button is packed, dot pack. So when I pack it, it just appears without any text. So there's a small button over here. So what you could do is you can provide the text that you want, right? So let's say find sum or just sum. You can do that. So when it displays, so sum is a button right now. So of course you can increase the font size. I'm gonna just increase the font size. But on a click, something should happen, right? So it should take the values from these two, find the sum, and then display the result. So what I'll do is I'll create one more label. So I'll come to this button again, but I'm going to create one more label to display the result. So I'm going to borrow this code and create another label. So label, so let's say this is where I'm going to display the result. So label result dk.label, master is root window. So do we display anything over here? Nothing. So let be empty. Nothing else is displayed. Font. So 20 pixels should be sufficient, or a little bigger or a little more bigger. Normal, and background is yellow color. It can be merged, or you want to make it blue or cyan or red, whatever you want, you can. So I'm going to just merge it off. So this label result, I'm going to pack after the button, right? So after the button, that particular result will be displayed. So now I can't see anything because I have not yet provided any text to this. The text is empty. That's why you are not able to see this anything. So if I display, your result will appear here. Right, so your result will appear here. So you want to provide any background color, you can definitely give it a try. Okay, so now on the click of button, so this is the magic. So on a click of button, something should happen, right? So the entire world of computer is everything should happen on a click of a button, right? So that's where I'm just teaching you this particular topic, where on a click of button, this data should be taken. It should find the sum of these two numbers and then display over here, right? So now what I will do is on a click of button, so find sum. So I'm going to call a function. Okay, so it's a lambda function. So the keyword argument for that is command. So what is the command that I'm going to give when this button is clicked? So the command is find sum. Now, what is this find sum? It's a function, but do not provide brackets because it's a lambda function. So find sum. So just define that particular find sum uh, in the beginning. So all the functions, you define it in the beginning. Find sum. That's it. Okay. So this particular function will be called. So let's say I am called. Let's say, okay, I just define like this. So what happens on the click of this particular button, this find sum function will be called. Let's see if it is really called. So close this. See, okay, on click of the sum, you should see I am called. Can you see this one? Just increase the font. I am called. All right. So on click of this sum, I'm called because I'm this button. I'm clicking this particular button, which is named as sum. And as soon as I click this particular command argument, this particular function find sum is called. So find sum function over here is just printing I am called. But what are we supposed to actually do? We are supposed to take the first number entry and second entry, and then add them, right? But what is the name of these two entry boxes? So go to your code. So the name of the first entry box is entry first number, and second one is entry second number. So what I do is here, I'm not going to display I'm called. Instead, entry first number, just get the number, right? So get the number. It can be in an integer format or it can be a floating point. Actually, it will be in a string format. So I'm just going to convert it without worrying about the data that is collected. I'm not doing any kind of validation. So entry first number dot get the text value and then convert it into float. So this is, and then store it in a first number, right? So I can just store the first number as A. See, this is something like how we take the input from the user using input, right? So input function helps you to take the input from the user, from the terminal. Similarly, entry first number dot get function helps you to take the data from this particular box, converts it into float. Here also you can convert it into float like this. And if you want to prompt something, you could probably prompt it here itself, enter the first number. And so this is how we actually do it when we are designing a command user interface. But right now we are doing graphic user interface. So take the first number, take the second number, entry first number, entry second number. So once you get both the numbers, if you want, you can just display A and B. So this is just for testing whether it's possible. That's it. So just see this. So when I click on sum, it says float entry first number dot get. So because it was an empty string, okay. So let's say I type 10 and 20, click on sum. So 10.0 and 20.0. So because I'm converting it into float, so I'm able to see this data. So what I will do right now is just find the sum. Sum equal to A plus B. That's it. And then I'm just going to display the sum of A and B is equal to sum. All right, so just find the sum. So I'm going to provide the values. Validations we should do, definitely. So right now the focus is to create the user interface. So the sum of 15 and 20 is equal to 35.0. I hope this is clear. Of course, this particular string, I'm just printing it in the console, but I'm supposed to attach it to this. So what I'll do is I'll take this fellow, I'll create this particular statement in, let's say, output message, right? So output message, I want to say that the sum of, you can't use, so I'll use the formatted string. So that is better, right? So sum of A and B is equal to sum. That's it, job done. So this is the formatted string. You have to prefix it with S, otherwise it will give an error. So this A, B, and sum are variables. It has to be provided in the curly bracket so that it will replace. So this is very powerful formatted string. And this particular output message, we will have to attach it to the result. Now, what is the name of the result? Label result, right? So now what we'll do is label result dot configure. So the text that I want to change from your result will appear here is this one. So you can directly assign this to the text or like this as well. Right, so let's take 10, 20, click on sum. The sum of 10 and 20 is equal to 30. So this is how the design of simple calculator is done. Of course, I want you to improvise it. So, okay, I'll show you another button. So let's say I create another button. So instead of button, no, not instead of, so button find sum, I'm going to create another button called as find difference. Okay, so find difference. So I'm just going to call it as diff Arial command. So command is find difference. I always prefer to use the full names. So like how in order to call you your name. So instead of short names, let's say your name is Rajkumar. So it's better to call as Rajkumar than R, right? So find difference. So that is the convention we're supposed to use. So all these I learned it in Mysore Infosys. So I was in the training in the year 2007, 4 months training in Mysore Infosys. So that's where the entire how a training has to be given, how it has to be learned, I actually learned systematically. Of course, now I created my own curriculum, my own style of teaching. So it has helped hundreds of thousands of students. Almost, I have personally trained over 3,000 students. So find difference, just take these two numbers, entry first number and entry second number. So you have to find the difference, right? So difference is equal to A minus B. So you can do any kind of computation. So temperature calculator, dollar converter, so right, so currency converter, so measurement converter. So you can do quite a lot with this basics. So the difference of A and B is equals to difference. And then that output message should be assigned. That's it, job done. So did we pack? No. So if we do not pack this particular button, so then what will happen? That button will not appear. See here. So there's no button at all. So what we'll do? So we'll have to pack it. So button finds a difference has to be packed before the label result. Dot pack before the label result. Otherwise, it won't work. Simple. Let's run this one. So yeah, so you have some button and different button. Of course, it's because there's empty data, so it's giving an error. Of course, what you can do is you take this data. If it is empty string, you can say that you don't perform any activity, so that can be done. So here we are assuming that this data is already validated. So 10 and 20. So 10 plus 20 sum is the sum of 10 and 20 is equals to 30. When I click on difference, the difference of 10 and 20 is equals to minus 10. That's it. So I want you to expand this particular program right now to create a couple of buttons like for product quotient remainder. Of course, you can have a button to find the square root of a number. So you can also design calculators, area calculators. So that is the assignment that I want you guys to do. So the first assignment that I want you to do is complete the above calculator with 3 more buttons to find the product, quotient, and remainder, right? So that is the first task. Second task is create a brand new standalone application. These are called as standalone. So there's one standalone application which can run on the desktop. There's a web application which can run on the web browser, and there's a mobile application that can run on the mobile. So the graphic user interface is similar. So create a brand new standalone application to perform to calculate area of square. So let's say we just take the site from the user and just calculate the area and then display. So you can create another application. So in the beginning, just separate it out. Okay, rectangle. Just get used to this. So rectangle, you need to take length and breadth. So here you have length and breadth. So you'll have to prompt and accept. And then on one click of button, there will be only one button here. So right, so rectangle, there'll be only one button. So these are separate applications, rectangle and triangle. So you can take the input like 3 sides, enter the first side, enter the second side, enter the third side, and then calculate. Or you can say enter the base and height, and then you can calculate the area, right? So you can have both the options. So next is create a brand new standalone application to convert temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. That's it. Okay. So I'm going to send these questions. You guys can just ensure that you complete it and then submit it for the correction. So the assistant teachers will do the corrections and give you the feedback. So if you are stuck, you can always reach out to the assistant teacher. I'll share the phone numbers. Create a brand new standalone application to convert temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So vice versa. 7, create temperature converter is done. Convert. So you can also say that create an application, create a currency converter, right? So you can convert from USD to rupees to yen. So let's say that we take this, all the combinations, okay? Currency converter, USD, rupees, all the possible combinations, all the possible combinations. So what happens right now is the outcome of this particular session is basically for me to help you to create an application. So how do you create a graphic user interface? How do you create a simple window? How do you create a simple label and use that particular label to display as heading, display as prompting? And how do you create an entry box, right? It's a text box. And how do you create a button on a click of a button? How do you make a call to a function to take the data and then find the sum and then display the sum in the another label? So that was the agenda of today's class. Of course, solve all the assignments that I've given. In the next class, we'll see some more widgets. See you guys. Bye-bye.